Well, hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us for this online message this weekend. It is kind of a quiet week coming up with Christmas right around the corner. And just to let you know, there's only a couple things on the calendar. I just dropped the bulletin. Let me see if I can go from memory. Why try? Wednesday night is prayer house, 7 o'clock. Friday morning is the men's study, 7 a.m. Sounds like I should have been able to remember that. Christmas Eve, Sunday, we're having the same service at 9 and then 11, our regular Sunday morning services. But then our Christmas Eve service is Sunday night at 6 p.m. So if you could join us, it'd be great to have you. Our worship guide has a couple other things on it I want to make note of. We are handing out Christmas presents, kind of a Christmas Day, New Year's present, and hopefully you're getting one if you don't have one soon. There's a postcard in there. Please fill out the postcard and send it back if you'd like us to pray for you this coming year on Wednesday nights. So return your Awe of God postcard. Enjoy the gift. Also, I just want to drop a real quick note on in January 7th through the 28th, instead of having 21 days of fasting like sometimes we've done in the past and other churches do, we're going to encourage everybody for 21 days from January 7th to January 28th. Try to pray once a day on your knees. That means physically getting down on one or two knees and praying, whether it's just for a moment or for a longer time. I know that's hard physically for everybody, but we want to encourage everybody to start off the year with a posture of humility, 21 days of kneeling prayer. So just want to make you aware that we're going to be talking about that in January. All right. As you know, Christmas is here. It's like 50 degrees outside, so it doesn't feel like Christmas time in some ways. But Christmas is here. There's some real basic questions when we get to Christmas. The who, what, where, when, kind of how questions. The who, that's obvious. It's the coming of Jesus in the form of a baby. That's the who, that's an easy. The what of Christmas, it's celebrating the birth, obviously. The when, well, we know Christmas. We can look at our calendar and know exactly when it happened. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the when was Christmas first foretold or kind of hinted at. And it goes all the way back to Genesis 3. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. Why? Last week we talked about comfort, that Christmas brings us comfort, not just for the issues of the now, but knowing regardless of how our life plays out, there's a comfort in knowing that our sins are forgiven. This is maybe one of those other easy ones. It's the where of Christmas. And we know the story. It's, well, Micah 5, 2 through 5. I think this was written about 700 years before Jesus was born, and this is what Micah had to say. You, Bethlehem. So there we go. You, Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. Israel will be abandoned until the time when she who is in labor bears a son, and the rest of his brothers return to join the Israelites. There's some foreshadowing there. He will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they will live securely. For then his greatness will reach the ends of the earth, and he will be our peace. Again, that's Micah chapter 5, verses 2 through 5. Matthew, the book of Matthew, actually quotes a part that we just read. In Matthew chapter 2, Herod asked the chief priests. He finds out that the Messiah has been born. He asked the chief priests and the teachers of the law, hey, where was the Messiah? This threat, where was he born? And this is what the chief priests and the teachers of the law said to Herod. In Bethlehem, this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Now, obviously, you knew the question of where Christmas takes place. O little town of Bethlehem, this is one of the easier questions about Christmas. I looked it up, trying to find what Bethlehem's all about. And the estimated population of Bethlehem during the time of Jesus' birth, we don't really know, going back a long time, somewhere between 200 people and 2,000. Okay, so it's a small town nonetheless, maybe as small as 200, maybe 2,000 people. Now, again, I don't want to make anybody mad, and I don't want to unsettle anybody, but chances are Jesus was born in a cave home, a home that was built over a cave. And chances are he was probably born more in the cave section of the home than the home section of the home. Now, what they would do in these times is in Bethlehem, there's a lot of cave kind of places. They would actually build their home on top of a cave. The animals would kind of live in the cave. The heat generated by the animals would actually rise up and kind of help heat the home. So that's kind of what they did. It was their practice. Now, Joseph and Mary, they went to Bethlehem for the census. So there's a good chance, again, this isn't definitive, there's a good chance that Jesus is born in the cave home of one of Joseph's relatives. It makes sense that Joseph would go home. So I don't know if he's in a stranger's house, but chances are he's actually in a relative's home. He's there for the census. Now the word inn, there's no room in the inn. The word inn really can be translated a large room or even guest room. So it makes sense that if a lot of relatives had come back for the census, that there's other people, maybe even other family members. Mary doesn't want to give birth in the middle of a room full of people, even if they're Joseph's relatives. So chances are, they just kind of went downstairs. So it's not as glamorous as a nativity scene that we might see set up in our home, but that's on a postcard, but that's on a Christmas card. But that's kind of the reality of what that situation might have looked like. Today, Jerusalem still exists. Bethlehem still exists. Its population is around 30,000 people. It's 6 miles from Jerusalem, so it's not that far from where Jesus died, to be honest with you. It's funny because I found out that they tried to look at Jesus' life and the different where he went. They estimated that he walked over 3,000 miles in his ministry time in those 3 years, but he died only 6 miles from where he was born. Now, he was raised in Nazareth, okay? But here's the perspective. Let's say Hummelstown, where I'm at right now, let's say this is Bethlehem. He would have been raised in Nazareth, which is about 70 miles away. That's like where King of Prussia is. The King of Prussia Mall is about 70 miles directly from where I'm standing right now. But he died only 6 miles from where he was born, and that would have been like the location between here, where I am, and the Harrisburg Mall. Okay, if that kind of gives you some perspective on things. We know that he lived in Bethlehem for a while. We don't know how long after he was born. He might have been there for up to 2 years. If Joseph's family was in, or extended family anyways, he went back for the census. He seems to have some relatives there possibly. They might have lived with Joseph's family for a couple years. We don't know. The Magi come. Again, we don't have a timing on this, but there's a chance that the Magi might have been there 2 years after he was born. Herod finds out that this Messiah is born, so they flee to Egypt. They return to Nazareth, which is in the section of Galilee. So that's a little bit about the town of Bethlehem. Now let's look a little bit more about the context of Micah. Micah prophesied with Isaiah. Micah is the only prophet that we know of that prophesied in both Judah and Israel, the northern and southern kingdom. He ministered to both. He's maybe the only one to do that. He spoke of the coming judgment, seems like most prophets did. The coming judgment, the coming hard times, the coming humiliation under foreign powers. But he also spoke of restoration, that God will raise up a great ruler from this very humble place. Bethlehem was well known, obviously, as David's hometown. Yet it was never great or influential. While they acknowledged that King David came from there, didn't give it any significance or great importance. That's a little bit about Bethlehem. Bethlehem, actually, you might not know this, Bethlehem means house of bread. okay? Which is interesting because we also know that Jesus is referred to as the bread of life. So that's kind of a neat little thing. Bethlehem also means fruitfulness or abundance. You could say Jesus was born in the house of fruitfulness. It's a fair question to ask, where does our fruit or where does our abundance come from? You know, it doesn't come from us. It comes from walking in a relationship with Christ. So a little bit about Bethlehem. All right, here we go to the text. Micah wrote, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. Micah is saying that the Messiah will come from Bethlehem. That's the where. But he's going to mention that he did not begin there. Jesus did not begin in Bethlehem. He's born in Bethlehem, but he did not begin there. So he covers the where, but he also addresses the what Jesus is. And he's eternal, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. Okay? So Micah is saying, while he was born in Bethlehem, he didn't get his start there. Okay? In the New Testament, and now we see that Ephesians 1 talks about him being before the foundation of the world. Revelation 22 says that Jesus is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. We can say he has always been. There was never a time he was not. All right. Before Bethlehem existed, before Bethlehem, he still existed as one of the members of the Trinity in a relationship of love, fellowship, and shared glory with the Trinity from before creation. Before Bethlehem, in fact, he was not just existing, but he's the creator of all things. I found this little description. He was before all things. He is the creator of all things. He is eternal and not a part of what was created. Everything and every being except him has been created. Whatever has not been created is God. Jesus is the creator of all things. Therefore, he is God. He cannot be a part of his own work. It's a fancy way of saying Jesus was around before Bethlehem. He's been part of the eternal Trinity for all eternity. Now, his name Jesus was not known until Gabriel and Mary's conversation, but we know that the eternal Son existed before he revealed himself or was born and had this name, Jesus. This leads me to two kind of churchy words that I think are worth explaining. The first one is a theophany. You know what a theophany is? A theophany is a manifestation of God in the Bible that is tangible or visible, we could say, to the human senses, often but not always in a human form. The burning bush, the pillar of cloud, those are considered theophanies. But there's also a Christophany. That is very possible when Jesus actually came in the form of a person before to appear to people. It's very possible that the visits from the angel of the Lord were actually pre-incarnate Christ appearances. We don't know for sure. We can't say 100%. Jacob wrestled with an angel. We don't know if that was just purely an angel or if that was a Christophany. The fourth person appears in the fiery furnace. Genesis 18 has this really intriguing story. Abraham had some visitors, 2 angels and God himself. So we don't know exactly, but it seems that we can kind of see this idea that Christ could appear. Here's the point. Every theophany or a Christophany where God takes a human form foreshadows the incarnation of Christmas, where God took a human form in a permanent way to live among us as Emmanuel, or God with us. So again, it's kind of an intriguing thought. Here's the point. From before creation, God's plan included Jesus and Christmas. Okay? It's not plan B. It was plan A from the very beginning, from before the beginning. How does this apply to us? The fact that Jesus is eternal, not just coming on the scene in Bethlehem. There's a glory of Jesus. He's far more than just a man. Okay? Just drives that point home. There's a love of Jesus. He left the glory of heaven for us. To leave also connotates a humble or humility, to suffer and die. It shows again the nature of Jesus, that he added humanity to his eternal deity. The text goes on to say, Israel will be abandoned until the time when she who is in labor bears a son, and the rest of his brothers return to join the Israelites. Now, Micah, what he's saying is he anticipated a future time where this would be partially fulfilled, that the Hebrew people would return from Babylonian exile. Okay, so he saw it as a two-part prophecy. The people would return from Babylonian exile, but also an ultimate fulfillment in the restoration of Israel and us, that we would be included in God's plan, in God's family. And then the text goes on to say that he will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they will live securely. And then his greatness will reach to the ends of the earth. I just want to pick out a few key words. Stand. He will stand in the strength of the Lord. After this time of trial, God will restore the flock in the strength of the Lord. Last week we talked about Jesus is both tough and tender. We see the strength of the Lord there. He's a shepherd. He will shepherd his flock. The ruler born in Bethlehem will tenderly care for the flock. As I just said last week, we talked about the fact that Jesus is tough and tender. So we see that reiterated again in Micah. The majesty or the greatness of this ruler from Bethlehem guarantees the standing of his people. What guarantees the promises of the gospel and our standing before God? It's the majesty, it's the greatness of Christ. It says of us that we will live securely. It means we will abide well because of his greatness. Again, last week we talked about Christmas and how it brings us comfort. Okay, comfort is not found in circumstances, it's found in our salvation, which is allowed by Christmas. And to the ends of the earth, this ruler from Bethlehem is for everyone. It's not like David, who was also born in Bethlehem. This ruler is for everybody. And then the text ends with this. And he will be our peace. Now, what does that mean? Micah says of this ruler from Bethlehem that he will be our peace. Now, what it doesn't say is this. It does not say this ruler from Bethlehem brings us our peace. Okay? This ruler of Bethlehem does not bring peace. That's what the world thinks about Jesus. Okay? Bear with me for a moment, because that might sound a little strange to you. Text says he will be our peace, not that he will bring us peace. He will be our peace. So what does that mean? That means he is our peace. And this is the way I look at it, and maybe this will resonate with you. That word is, that he will be, or that he is our peace, that shows that there's a relationship, there's an indwelling presence in us. Peace is not a gift that he gives us. Peace comes when he dwells in us. He will be our peace, not just give us peace. He is our peace. Ephesians 2 says kind of the same thing. He himself is our peace. Okay? So when we ask Christ to forgive us our sins, when we're walking intentional relationship with him, we are living humble and repentant lives. Peace isn't something God gives us. It's something that he is because he dwells in us. See the difference between having a gift of peace and being he is our peace? If you catch that, if that really sinks in, that's different than just having a gift. It's his presence in us. It's his presence in us that brings us our peace. So how do we apply Micah? The where of Micah, the fact that he prophesied that Jesus would be born in Bethlehem, and he was, that might give you a confidence in fulfilled prophecy. There's something to be said for looking at the Old Testament and seeing all the prophetic words that were fulfilled. That might give you some confidence. Again, the application for Micah is the what, that Micah points out that Jesus is an eternal God. Again, that might help us with our confidence. Why did he come? So they will live securely. That should give us a confidence, a promise of security, that he will be our peace. That should give us a confidence. So confidence is one of these themes that pops up. I think when I look at Micah, I think we can look at this short chapter and say that we should have a confidence because Micah has all this to say about the Messiah. Now, when I think of confidence, I think confidence should bring us a measure of joy. Okay? Why should we be a joyful people? We should be joyful because we are confident in our faith. We are confident of what Jesus has accomplished for us at the cross and through the birth of his child. What's a healthy church? What does a healthy church look like? It's a good question for us as I pastor this little church. What is a healthy church like? I think one of the indications of a healthy church, one of the indications of a healthy person is having a measure of joy. Do you have a measure of joy? Is it true for you as an individual? Is it true for us as a church? Are we a joyful church? Somebody once told me this is a happy, what do they say? A happy huggy church. A lot of happiness, a lot of huggy. A happy huggy church. To me, that was such a great compliment because it does say something about joy. Years and years and years ago, I was walking through a church and I just had this sense. I almost heard God whisper this in my ear. There's a serious lack of joy around here. I pray for Deep Rivers Church that we are a joyful people, that you are a joyful person, and we are joyful as a church, not just emotion, but because we're confident, and our confidence goes back to this promise that we see in Scripture. I want to just end our time by reading some lyrics from an old hymn. It's Joyful, Joyful We Adore Thee. And it's not a Christmas carol technically, but I just want to read it kind of as a prayer over all of us this weekend. The text, the song goes like this. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, opening to the sun above. Melt the clouds of sin and darkness, drive the dark of doubt away. Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the light of day. All thy works with joy surround thee, earth and heaven reflect thy rays. Stars and angels sing around thee, center of unbroken praise. Field and forest, vale and mountain, flowery meadow, flashing sea, chanting bird and flowing fountain, call us to rejoice in thee. Thou art giving and forgiving, ever blessing, ever blessed, wellspring of the joy of living, ocean depth of happy rest. Thou our Father, Christ our brother, all who live in love are thine. Teach us how to love each other, lift us to the joy divine. Mortals join the mighty chorus, which the mountain stars began. Love divine is reigning o'er us, binding all within its span. Ever singing, march we onward, victors in the midst of strife. Joyful music leads us sunward in the triumph song of life. I hope that you are a joyful person. I hope that your joy is deep-rooted and it's found in the promise of Christmas. I think that's one of the things that Micah wanted us to know, that we have a confidence. Again, you might gain a measure of confidence just by looking at the filled prophecy of his being foretold that he'd be born in Bethlehem. But I think it's much more deep than just the location. It's the promise of that Jesus is an eternal being, and there is a strength in him that allowed him victory over the cross, and that's something that we can tap into if that's fair to say. So I hope that this is a joyful Christmas for you, and I hope you find your confidence not in the temporary circumstances, but in the promises of Christmas. All right, well, again, thank you so much for joining us this weekend. If we don't see you, have a great Christmas. If you're out and about, take care and God bless.